The grand chandelier sparkled above the gala hall, but her gaze was fixed on the tall, commanding man across the room. He moved with an effortless confidence that made her heart pound, though her mind screamed caution. She had agreed to pretend for one night, a simple act of convenience, yet the weight of his eyes made her question every decision she'd ever made about love. Every laugh, every brush of his hand sent sparks through her chest, and she realized pretending was far more dangerous than she expected. Outside, the city lights reflected on the gala's glass walls, mirroring the dizzying mix of fear, thrill, and a temptation she couldn't resist. Was this a fleeting arrangement, or the beginning of something that could never be undone? She swallowed, feeling the pull of a life she never thought she'd dare to live, and wondered if she'd ever be able to let him go. The gala was in full swing, and whispers followed them wherever they went. Every glance and subtle touch between them seemed magnified under the watchful eyes of society. Elena's pulse raced as she moved beside Dominic, feeling both exposed and exhilarated. She could hear the faint rustle of gossiping guests, their eyes lingering on the two of them. Each laugh, each shared glance felt electric, and despite her caution, she began to realize this pretend night could awaken desires she thought long buried. Dominic's quiet confidence wrapped around her like a shield, but she sensed the danger, letting herself feel too much. She tried to anchor herself in reason, but every inch closer to him pulled her further from control. After the gala, the sleek black limousine awaited, silent except for the soft hum of the engine. Elena sank into the leather seat, her mind still racing from the night. Dominic sat across from her, his hazel eyes soft but unreadable. Conversation flowed easily, teasing at first but gradually, brushing the edges of intimacy. The city lights flashed across the tinted windows, painting fleeting patterns on their faces. Elena felt her guard faltering, a dangerous warmth spreading in her chest. One laugh led to a shared story. One shared story led to quiet smiles, and she wondered if pretending could ever feel this real, or if this was exactly the trap he wanted her to fall into. A sudden silence fell as they stopped at a quiet overlook. The city spread below them like a blanket of lights. Dominic leaned against the railing, and Elena approached cautiously, drawn by the rare vulnerability in his stance. For the first time, he shared a memory of heartbreak, a brief glimpse behind the powerful exterior. Elena listened, her heart softening, realizing even someone so strong could bear wounds. The night air wrapped around them, carrying a mix of vulnerability, longing, and the unspoken pull between them. It was a fragile moment, beautiful yet charged, reminding her that pretending might never be enough to protect her heart. Later, as Elena walked home under the quiet streetlights, the events of the evening played in her mind. Dominic's gaze, the weight of his presence, the vulnerability he had shown, it all clung to her like a second skin. She questioned her own heart, wondering if one night of pretense could ignite something lasting, or if she was merely walking toward inevitable heartbreak. She paused beneath a street lamp, feeling the cool night air and the fluttering of hope she wasn't ready to admit. Somewhere between fear and desire, she realized that letting him go might not be an option, even if it was just supposed to be pretend. The private retreat was perched on a cliff, overlooking a stormy sea, the wind tangling her hair as she stepped onto the terrace. Dominic's presence, magnetic and steady, drew her attention even as waves crashed below. The playful banter from the car ride turned into subtle challenges, each teasing glance, each joking remark, testing boundaries. Elena found herself laughing, daring, and surprisingly at ease, though she knew the game they were playing had rules she didn't fully understand. Every glance at him ignited a thrill she couldn't ignore, and she realized that pretending could quickly turn into something far more dangerous. Later, they wandered along a secluded garden path, the scent of jasmine thick in the evening air. Their steps fell in sync, and accidental brushes of fingers made her pulse quicken. Dominic's charm was effortless, but there was an edge to his intensity that kept her alert. Every word was measured, yet playful, daring her to read between the lines. Elena felt the pull of curiosity. How much of him was real, and how much was carefully controlled? She realized the pretense was slipping, replaced by a tension that felt both dangerous and irresistible. A misunderstanding during dinner caused tension to ripple between them. A seemingly innocent comment from Dominic sparked a flicker of doubt in Elena's eyes. She pulled back slightly, unsure if she could trust his intentions. Dominic, sensing her hesitation, leaned in with quiet sincerity, attempting to bridge the gap with a gentle smile. The storm outside mirrored their unsettled emotions, reminding them both that even pretend connections could stir real feelings and real complications. Later, in the library, the air was quiet except for the crackle of the fireplace. Elena's walls rose slightly as Dominic's voice softened, telling a story that revealed more of his past than he had intended. She noticed the vulnerability hidden behind his confidence, and something in her chest shifted. The playful tension from before was now replaced by curiosity and empathy, a dangerous mix she couldn't ignore. Pretending was no longer enough. She wanted to understand him, even if it scared her. Under a star-filled sky on the terrace, the air carried the scent of salt and night flowers. Elena watched Dominic, noticing the faint softness in his gaze as he glanced at her. A quiet moment of understanding passed between them, delicate and charged. Her heart stirred with a mixture of fear, excitement, and longing. Pretend or not, the night had changed something within both of them, leaving an unspoken question hanging in the cool night air. Could this connection survive beyond the pretense? Elena felt herself drawn to him in ways she hadn't expected. Alone in the sunlit conservatory, the scent of orchids around them, she caught glimpses of the man behind the facade. Dominic's laughter, warm and genuine, made her chest tighten. She realized she was no longer merely playing a part. Her curiosity had transformed into desire. Every glance held meaning. Every brush of his hand sent shivers down her spine. She struggled to remind herself of the rules, yet found them slipping like sand through her fingers, replaced by a thrilling uncertainty she could no longer resist. Dominic struggled to keep his emotions in check as they strolled along the private beach. The waves lapped gently at their feet, but the distance between them felt too small to maintain any pretense. Elena's teasing tone and playful gestures only fueled the fire in him. He fought the urge to close the gap, to let his hand brush hers. But each step forward was a test of restraint. The line between pretend and real blurred, and he wondered if he could control his heart when everything in him wanted to surrender. A rival from Dominic's business circle arrived unexpectedly, bringing tension that neither had anticipated. The rival's probing questions and subtle challenges cast a shadow over the playful intimacy they had been enjoying. Elena felt the unease ripple through Dominic, a side she had only glimpsed before. The moment reminded them that even pretend relationships could have consequences, and that vulnerability often invited risk. Elena's hand brushed Dominic's as they navigated the conversation, and the spark between them flared again, reminding both that their connection was no longer safe to ignore. Elena finally confronted Dominic about her feelings. Standing in the moonlit garden, she demanded honesty. Was this real? Or just a game? Dominic's usually confident demeanor softened. He admitted that the line had already been crossed, that he wanted more than pretense. Her heart raced as he drew closer, his words matching the intensity in his eyes. The night air seemed to thrum around them, charged with anticipation, longing, and the dangerous thrill of surrendering to desire. The first kiss was electric, consuming the space around them. Elena felt herself melt into the warmth of Dominic's embrace, realizing that pretending was no longer an option. The lines between pretense and reality had blurred entirely, leaving them both exposed, trembling and aware of the magnitude of what they were beginning. The night stretched infinitely, a delicate mix of fear and desire, promising that this connection was far too powerful to let go. The gala returned, more dazzling than ever, and every glance felt magnified under the scrutiny of the city's elite. Elena's heart raced as she moved beside Dominic, feeling the weight of whispered speculation and flashing cameras. Every step, every gentle touch of his hand carried a magnetic pull she could no longer ignore. The tension between them was electric, a mix of desire, fear, and anticipation. For the first time, Elena realized the world outside was irrelevant. The only thing that mattered was the space between them, charged with unspoken confessions and growing longing. Later, in a quieter corner of the gala, Elena's nerves overcame her caution. She confessed her deeper feelings, heart hammering as she spoke. Dominic's gaze softened, revealing the vulnerability she hadn't seen before. The noise of the party faded around them, leaving only the raw intensity of two hearts finally speaking their truths. For the first time, pretending was no longer an option, and the fragile barrier between them collapsed, leaving them both exposed and exhilarated. Dominic's own revelation followed. He spoke of heartbreaks past, of mistakes that had shaped him, and how he never thought he would trust again. Elena listened, heart swelling, realizing the man she had teased and challenged was real, vulnerable, and human beneath the polished exterior. Their confessions intertwined, forming an unspoken promise that perhaps their connection could survive beyond the masquerade. Every word drew them closer, eroding the final walls of pretense. An unexpected business scandal erupted mid-event, sending ripples of tension through Dominic's carefully controlled world. Elena instinctively moved closer to him, offering quiet support. The mix of professional pressure and personal emotion intensified the night's stakes, reminding both that life and love rarely followed a predictable script. Amid the chaos, Dominic's hand found hers, a small but potent signal that connection and loyalty mattered more than appearances. Later, in a quiet balcony overlooking the city lights, they shared their first truly honest moment. Dominic held Elena close, voice low, speaking of trust, desire, and hope. She leaned into him, heart racing, realizing that the pretense had vanished entirely. They were no longer acting. Each glance, each touch, and each whispered word was real. The night had shifted everything, leaving them exposed, exhilarated, and certain that letting go was no longer an option. The days following the gala brought an uneasy quiet. Elena felt a strange distance between herself and Dominic, despite the intensity of their previous moments. Misunderstandings over small gestures and ambiguous messages stirred insecurity. Every text unanswered, every delayed call, weighed heavily on her heart. Dominic's world, demanding and relentless, made her question whether their connection could survive reality outside the glittering moments. Yet, the pull toward him remained, a magnetic force she couldn't ignore. Elena wrestled with her emotions, questioning whether their connection was genuine or merely a fleeting moment of passion. Dominic's absence left her restless, replaying their encounters in her mind. She realized how deeply she had allowed herself to feel, and fear gripped her. The fear that one misstep could undo everything. Meanwhile, Dominic wrestled with his own fear of loss, torn between his protective instincts and the need to give her space. The tension between desire and distance became almost unbearable. Friends offered advice and subtle nudges. Maya's humor and blunt honesty reminded Elena of her own worth, while Dominic's confidant tried to keep him grounded. Their interventions highlighted truths neither wanted to confront: that pretending was no longer an option, and the growing bond could no longer be ignored. Laughter and gentle teasing from friends pierced through the tension, offering fleeting moments of relief in a storm of uncertainty. That night, Elena wandered alone under the city's quiet streetlights, replaying arguments and missed chances. The ache of almost losing him made her chest tighten. Fear of vulnerability and past heartbreaks clashed with longing, creating a storm of emotion she could no longer ignore. She realized that staying distant was no longer a defense. It was a prison she didn't want to inhabit. Something inside whispered that she had to risk it all, even if it meant facing heartbreak. A dramatic gesture finally pierced the distance. Dominic appeared at her door, unannounced, his eyes full of resolve and vulnerability. Without words, the tension melted into urgency. His presence said everything he couldn't yet voice. Elena's heart raced as the magnitude of their connection became undeniable. Pretending was no longer part of the equation. The night's confrontation promised a reconciliation, raw and real, that could either cement their bond or shatter it forever. Elena faced a life-altering opportunity abroad, a career move that could define her future. The excitement should have been pure, but her thoughts constantly returned to Dominic. The thought of leaving him behind felt heavier than the potential success awaiting her. Dominic's eyes, usually so commanding and unwavering, betrayed a rare vulnerability when they met hers. Both knew the stakes. One decision could redefine everything. The night air hummed with uncertainty as they stood together, two hearts bound by desire, each grappling with the pull of love and the call of life beyond each other. A quiet conversation in Dominic's private study revealed the depths of their emotions. Words flowed honestly, unfiltered, and hearts opened in ways neither expected. Elena admitted her fear of losing herself in love. Dominic confessed his fear of losing her entirely. Every pause, every gesture carried weight. It became clear that love was not a game, nor a pretense. It demanded courage, trust, and sacrifice. They realized the choice was not about leaving or staying, but about whether they could step into love fully, despite the unknown. Sacrifices had to be made. Elena hesitated, weighing ambition against love, while Dominic considered stepping back to let her thrive. Yet neither could ignore the growing truth. They were stronger together. The realization sparked a quiet determination. They would find a way to honor both hearts, no matter the challenges. The stakes of love became clear. Courage was required to claim it, and compromise was not weakness, but proof of commitment. A family revelation challenged Dominic, forcing him to confront old fears and the way he had previously shut people out. Elena observed, heart swelling, as he navigated vulnerability with courage. Their bond strengthened, not just through romance, but through shared understanding, respect, and support. In the quiet aftermath, it became clear that love required them to face life together fully, embracing both joy and risk. The choice was made. Elena and Dominic embraced on the terrace as the sun dipped below the horizon, their hearts synchronized in silent promise. Ambition, fear, and uncertainty faded into the background, leaving only the certainty of each other. Every past hesitation, every stolen glance, every whispered word led to this moment. A declaration of love not constrained by pretense, but strengthened by courage. They were ready to face the world together, no longer pretending, no longer afraid. Elena returned, stepping off the plane with her heart pounding. The anticipation of seeing Dominic again made her pulse quicken, but also filled her with nervous excitement. In the airport terminal, he was already waiting, eyes scanning the crowd until they found hers. Time seemed to slow as they approached each other. The distance of weeks melting into a single, perfect moment. Words weren't necessary. The intensity of their connection spoke louder than any declaration. In that instant, everything they had endured, the pretense, the doubt, the longing, culminated in undeniable truth. They were meant to be. In the quiet of Dominic's penthouse, they spoke honestly and fully for the first time since her departure. Fears, desires, and past mistakes were laid bare, and each confession only drew them closer. Elena realized she no longer needed to pretend, and Dominic admitted he had never stopped wanting her, not for a single moment. The space between them vanished entirely, replaced by trust, understanding, and the promise of a shared future. Love had won over hesitation, and they both knew nothing could undo it. The charity gala became their stage for a public acknowledgement. Cameras flashed. Whispers rippled through the crowd, but Elena and Dominic were only aware of each other. Standing side by side, hands entwined, they radiated confidence and certainty. The pretense of before was gone. Their love was bold, open, and undeniable. Each step they took together sent a clear message. Their connection had survived trials, distance, and doubt, and it was stronger than ever. Later, in a quiet room overlooking the city skyline, they shared an intimate, tender moment. Fingers intertwined, foreheads touching, they whispered promises neither needed to say aloud. Every heartbeat, every soft glance confirmed the truth they had discovered. Love could be fearless, enduring, and transformative. The story of pretense had ended. The story of real, unshakable love had begun. Finally, as the city lights twinkled below, they stood together on the rooftop terrace. The world felt infinite, yet in that moment it was theirs alone. Elena realized that every choice, every hesitation, and every leap of faith had led to this. Dominic held her close, whispering that he would never let her go. She smiled, heart full, knowing that this love was no longer pretend, no longer tentative. It was theirs, unshakable, permanent, and full of promise. The night ended with quiet joy, a shared breath, and the certainty of forever.